Hello everybody, I am Evan and welcome to a Scratch tutorial on how to make a Dodge Highscore game. So, first of all, you start out with this cat. It would be at 0, 0, but I did something wrong, so there you go. This is how you'd start with. As you can see, nothing happens. Now we're going to make it work. So, first of all, I'm just going to use the cat for right now. We just need to make a player. So, if you want to, you can remove the cat. You can choose a new sprite. There's a bunch of different things you could do with that. If you want to paint one, you can simply just do that. I'm just going to use the cat. First of all, what we need to do is just kind of make it so that the player can move around. However, we also probably want to get a good size. Because I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. Of course, you can adjust this yourself, but I'm probably just going to set this to 50. That'll be good for right now anyway. So yeah, we'll just do that, and that's good. Okay, so now the first thing we want to do is make it so that the player can move. That is obviously the most important part. So what we're going to do is actually, instead of using these, we're going to use this. So instead of the one flag clicked, we're going to do one I receive message, and we're going to make a new message called start. Now the reason for doing this instead of one flag clicked is because we can then make it so that you click a button on a menu screen to start it instead of just starting as soon as you hit the flag. That way it'll be a lot more organized and a lot better. But for right now, since we don't have a menu, we're just going to say one flag clicked, broadcast start. That way it'll still just do that. And I just put that in the stage. Okay, so now what you're going to want to do is make a forever loop and put it onto the when I receive start in your sprite 1. Or I'm going to rename it to player just so that you can easily see what it is. So in the player, you're going to do when I receive start and then forever. And then you're going to put an if then block. And in that if then, you're going to put key pressed. And we're going to do key, you can do WASD, arrow keys, or both. I'm going to do WASD, but you can use whatever keys you want, of course. So W key pressed, and then you're going to do change Y by 10. Now if we press play, as you can see, it moves up once you press that. We are going to put another if statement inside that forever loop, and then do a key, and this time we're going to do S, key S pressed, and then we're going to do change Y by, and we're going to put -10 in there. And that way we can also move down. So there you go, we can move up and down. Okay, cool. Now, I just need to be able to move left and right. So to do that, just go back to control and press if, and do another key, or go back to sensing, key pressed, and this time we do A. If A, oh no, actually no, D, sorry, if key D pressed, then change X by 10. And another thing you can do is just right click this, and then press duplicate for the last ones, and put it in there. And then instead of D, we're going to switch that to A, and instead of 10, we're going to do -10. And now, as you can see, it moves around. Now, obviously, if you want to make it so it moves slower, you make these numbers slower. If you want it to move faster, you make these numbers higher. Now, the other thing is, you probably want it to change direction. So in order to do that, all you have to do is use this point in direction in the motion section. And then you just want to put it in D for 90 degrees, and in A for -90 degrees. And there you go. Now, as you can see, it points in the direction, but as you can see, When it's pointing in this direction, it is upside down, and that is not something that we want. So in order to fix that, all you're going to need to do is put in, like, right under start but not inside of the forever loop, you want to do set rotation style, which is in motion, to left right. And that way, as you can see, it is now the right way around. Okay, so the other thing is, this particular sprite has two costumes here, and as you can see, it looks like a step. So what if you want to add animation? So to add animation, it's gonna be a bit more difficult, but the best way to do it, in my opinion anyway, is I don't really like how they automatically have a variable called myVariable, but we'll go with it. So you probably don't want to have this thing named myVariable. So you can either just delete it. Well, I'm just going to delete it, or you can just rename it. But I'm just going to delete it so that you can know how to actually make a variable. So I'm going to do make a variable, and then under this we're going to say is moving. That's what we're going to call it, and we don't really need it to be for all sprites because only this sprite is going to need to interact with it. So instead of this bullet point here that says for all sprites, we're going to click the one that says for this sprite only. Of course, you don't really have to do that, but it's probably just best as to make everything simple as it can be. Alright, and then we are just going to, right when it starts, right underneath this set rotation style, we're going to set is moving to 0, because currently it's not moving. And then we're going to set it to 1 in every single one of these. So we're going to set it to 1, set it to 1, set it to 1, and set it to 1. There we go. So now if we press these keys, it'll set it to 1. The other thing then is, as you can see, then as soon as we move, it sets it to 1, which is exactly what we want. However, it never sets it back to 0. Now, there are two ways you can do this, but the way that we already have this code set up, it's probably best to just say set moving to 0 before it, because that way it'll work, as you can see. Now, how does this work? Because it seems like it would just set it to 0. Well, you see, it does it in order, so it starts at set is moving to 0, so then it would be 0. And then it checks for all of these and sets it to 1 if you're pressing one of these keys. So it's pretty simple. That's really all there is to it. The other way you could do it is by just having if-else statements and then putting all of this stuff inside of the if, and then inside else you do that, and so on and so forth. But we don't. And then once you go through all 4 of these and put them all in if-else loops and put them into the one big if-else loop, then the last else would just be set moving to 0, but that's a bit more complicated. So we're just going to do it this way because it's a lot simpler and easier to do. Plus, we already had it set up that way. So there we go. Now we just need to make it so that it actually gets animated. So in order to do that, really all we need to do is put another when I receive start inside of here, and do another forever loop under that, and then put an if, and go to operators and do an equals, and inside the first bubble you're going to put is moving there, and the second one you're going to put 1. So if is moving equals 1, and then under looks we're going to do next costume, and also under control we're going to do weight 0.05. We can try that. That's I don't know. Yeah, whatever looks good. So you may be wondering, well, why not set this to false and true? Well, in programming, 0 is typically equal to false, so that would mean it's not moving anyway. and 1 would be equal to true, which would mean, well, that would mean it is moving. So it's just a lot easier to deal with because it's pretty much impossible to make a typo with zeros and ones, and it's also takes up less storage, so it's just better to do that. We don't have to have is moving anymore, so we could just check this thing off as I already did, and that's pretty good. So now, as you can see, it is animated. Of course, if you want it to wait a bit more in between steps or in between your different costumes, you could just make this number higher. If you want it to change more often, make it lower, but I just did it to 0.05 seconds. Alright, cool. And that's pretty much it for the player, at least for right now. We're going to do more on it later, but that's it for right now. So next, what we're going to do is get a new sprite, and this one's going to be for the first projectile, which is the thing that's actually going to hurt the player. And in order to do that, you can either choose another sprite, paint a sprite, surprise, upload a sprite. I actually have a sprite to upload, so I'm going to go do that real quick. Okay, so this is my sprite, and that is a little bit too big, so I'm just going to change the size in here down to, I'm going to change it to 25. That looks pretty good. Okay, so, we're just going to call this, you can call it whatever you want. I'm just going to call it normal fireball. How about that? Because we're going to add different kinds. But for right now, this is just going to be the basic kind. So this is where it's going to start to get a bit more advanced, as we are going to start to need to actually make it so that there are clones and stuff as well. So, yeah, so let's get started working on this. Okay, so what we're going to do here is then basically we're going to start with a when I receive start. Easy peasy. And then we're just going to go on to making a forever loop. Forever, wait 1 second, and then inside of control you also do create clone of myself. Now basically what clones are is just, well, what it kind of sounds like, it's a clone of it. As you can see, now there's 2 because I ran this, and if I run it again, there will be 3, and so on and so forth. Now if you press the stop, all the clones will go away and only this one will stay. And yeah, that's about it. So the other thing that you can do then is make it so that clones run a different kind of code than the real thing, which is very helpful in making something like this, where we have a whole bunch of things coming at you, because we don't really want the main one to come at us. But for right now, we're just gonna make the clones. So right above this, right in control, right above the create clone of myself, there is a when I start as a clone. You're gonna have to drag that in here. Now under this, what we're going to do is go to motion and go to random position, and then under looks we're going to go to show and put that there as well. And we are going to make this main fireball hide so that you can't see it. So now you can only see the clones, and they will show up every 1 second. Now one issue with that right now, and that is, as you can see, they're just kind of spawning in the middle. Now that would be unfair for the player if a fireball is just able to spawn on him while he's in the middle. So we don't want that. So we're going to have to adjust this go to random position so that it can go to any of these edges. So to make it go to an edge, what you could do is say go to random position and then set X or set Y, either one you want, to, if it's X, either to 240 or negative 240, and if you're doing Y, then set Y to 180 or negative 180, since those are the edges of the screen. But the only problem is if you just do that, well, it works. As you can see, they're only spawning on this bottom edge, but they're not spawning on any of the other edges. So to fix this, it's really simple. All we really have to do is make a random number generator. Well, there is a random number generator built into it, so all we need to do is get a random number and then do that. So first of all, we're just going to use an if else yes. And we're going to say if we're going to do an equals in that, and in the first bubble we're going to do pick random 1 to 2. In the second one you could do 1 or 2, whichever one you want. I'm just going to go with 1 for simplicity's sake. So yeah, that would work. And then inside of that instead of if, we're going to put yet another if else, and also we're just going to copy this. You could have just copied that, but okay. But that's fine. So there we go. So it's the same thing. And then we're going to drag this right here in here. And we also don't need the show, because that could also just go outside of it. Now the reason why we have random position before it is because, well, in every single one of these cases it's going to go to a random position. So it's wise to just kind of have it go there anyway, or to have it go to a random position beforehand, so you don't have to have a lot of code. That way it'll just simplify it. And also every single one of these outputs are going to make it shown, so we could just put that afterwards. We don't want to put it beforehand, because otherwise it'll still appear somewhere and then just teleport, and that's still not going to be good. So that's why we're doing that. And then in the else statement of the in the else statement right here, we're going to put set y to 180. So just to reiterate, this is set y to negative 180 inside of the if statement. Else set it to 180. Set y, sorry. And then in else, we're just going to copy this and put it in else, and drag these out of here. If you put it in here, it'll delete the code. And then we're going to do set x, and we're just going to drag it into both of these. And in this one, we're going to say 240, and in this one, negative 240. Okay, let's try that out. And as you can see, now they're spawning along the edges only, but they are spawning on every edge, not just a few of them. So yep, they spawn on all of the edges. So there's that. And also this thing, we can hide it again. Okay, so that works now. And now we just need to make it so that it moves. So we are also going to say point in direction, because as you can see, they're all pointing in the same direction, and that's not good. So we're going to say if it's pointing, or if it's setting y to negative 180, then it needs to point up. And this handy thing right here will pretty much show you which direction it is by the arrow. So we're just gonna point the arrow up, and that is 0 degrees. And then down in the else statement of this, 180 will be on the top, so we need to point down, which would end up being 180 degrees. And then in this one right here, where it says set x to 240, that'll be on this edge. Nope, it will be on this edge, so it needs to be pointing left. So it'll be negative 90. And then where it says set x to negative 240, that is going to be on this edge, so it needs to be pointing right, which is already 90 degrees. So now they should all be pointing in the right direction. However, there is one problem, and that is they're all pointing in the opposite direction of what they need to be. Because that's not actually anything wrong with the code, but something wrong with the sprite. Something I forgot to mention is that if you just go to the select tool and flip horizontal, they all have to be pointing in this direction. Actually, I'm going to move this towards the center as well. There we go. That should be pretty good. They have to be pointing in towards the right. Otherwise, it's just going to look backwards. So now it should be good. Yes. So if it is pointing in the opposite direction, just go to the select tool and press flip horizontal. But as you can see, even by this right here, these are pointing right. This has to be as well. So just to remind you of that. And now they should all be good. And as you can see, they're all pointing in the directions they need to be pointing in. Yep, there we go. So now we just need to make a move, which is actually really easy. All we need to do is after this show, go to control, control, and put it forever loop after show. And we are just going to have to do move 10 steps inside of that. And now they will move. However, when they get to the edge, they just kind of stay there. So we want them to disappear. So, in order to do that, instead of having a forever loop, we want to do a repeat until, which is also in control. Repeat until, and put that in place of it, and put the move 10 steps inside of it. Now we can get rid of the forever loop, and inside of repeat until, we're going to go to sensing, and do touching, and we're going to do touching edge. And that, okay, so as you can see, there's a bit of an issue here, and that is that they're already touching the edge. So to fix that, we are going to have to start out moving a little bit, because as you can see, yeah, they just kind of stay there. So instead of that, well, no, we still have that there, except we just need to make it so it goes away from the edge. So we're going to do a repeat, move that away, repeat, I'll do 5, and move 10 steps. And actually, let's go get this thing away so we can see how many steps it actually does need to take. So it does not need to repeat 5, so we'll do 4 and try that. Okay, it still does not need to take that many. We'll do 3. Okay, so 3 seems to be good. So repeat 3, move 10 steps, and then put the repeat until afterwards. So now they should go to the other side. However, they're still just kind of staying there. So we are going after the repeat until, go back to control, and right under create clone of myself, there's delete this clone. Just put that afterwards. There you go. They go to the edge and disappear. However, I don't think they disappear early enough, as soon as they touch the edge, they disappear. But we want them to kind of look like they're going off screen and not just disappearing. So all we have to do is make another repeat loop, and we're just going to do 3 again and move 10 steps. And we're going to put that before the delete this clone, and that should work. That should look good. Yep, alright, so now it kind of actually looks like they're going off the screen. Alright, good. That works just fine. And now we just need to go back to player and do detection. So it's just going to do, for right now, we're going to do if, and then under the sensing we're doing touching, and we'll fireball. And then under control, we're going to do, no, stop all. And we're going to put that in this forever loop where the movement is. Okay, so now, if we play this, if we touch it, it stops the game. See, there you go. Okay, so in the next video, we're going to do health, and possibly work on another fireball as well. So I'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye.